Alright, Schlockmeister fans, continuing with the Blind Dead trilogy, we have the Ghost Galleon. Let's check it out. Hey, we've got bikini models.
Turn a little that way now. That's it. Take it, please. Not bad.
Apparently one of the models is missing.
When it's over, you'll hear of it.
But why is it so mysterious?
It's a new product we're managing and
She's on a special assignment.
Security. Till the proper time.
In fact, she's out on a boat.
She's in a boat.
In a boat?
It's broadcast time.
She's been hired for a publicity stunt.
In a boat.
And here she is. She and this other model are actually stuck out in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
Oh, what's happening?
But they find a galleon. Anyway, they drift over to the galleon and one of them decides to get out and get on it. Even though it looks completely abandoned and it's very old. Well, we don't see what's happening, but something clearly bad is. The guy on the right is a scientist who knows the legend of the ghost ship.
About a disappearing ship. Well, as I said, I don't believe in your tales, and I've rented my yacht to go looking for the girls.
You're determined, aren't you? I warn you, it could be dangerous.
I'm going to spend another night alone. I'm sorry. I just can't stand it any longer. I'm going to board the galleon and look for Lorena. Do you read me? I just hope you've heard me.
Meanwhile, the others go out to look for her too. Or them.
What happens if we can't find the girls out there?
Oh, I think we'll find them.
I don't.
Meanwhile, back on the boat, uh-oh. I think we've seen this scene before. The Knights Templar are rising from their tombs, or in this case, coffins, which are apparently on board this ghost galleon. And they do what they do, which is, of course, stalk slowly. They eventually catch up with her, but instead of biting and eating her like they usually do, they just kind of carry her. And then they simply dump her. The others eventually do find the abandoned boat and the ghost galleon, and of course they decide to go right on too. In fact, they decide to spend the night on the galleon. I don't know why, though. They have a nice yacht, but they spend the night on, and then this girl decides to search. Her search, of course, wakes up the Knights, who then stalk her in slow motion as well. They catch her, though, and they drag her away. For a very long time. They finally shut her up by cutting her. This guy's telling the story about the ghost ship now.
Men of Calvary, or perhaps friends of the Templars, who were excommunicated by the Pope and banished for the celebrations of Saint.
That place.
In addition to the coffins of the Templars, they also find a bunch of treasure. But then they find the Templars, or the Templars find them.
No. It's
But guess what? The professor knows about exorcisms.
Yes, that's it. I have some knowledge of exorcism.
And he's able to push them back to their coffins.
Now, spirits of evil, united to the devil, rejoin your master. Leave us. Gaze.
But with the Templars driven back into their coffins, they can just take the coffins now and dump them into the ocean. Easy peasy. Anyway, they pull a plank from the ship, and 3 of them are going to try to swim to land. Professor can't swim, though. One of the guys has a satchel full of jewels and treasure, though, and he refuses to drop them, so he decides to kill one of them to drop the weight, but the girl kills him instead. Back on the ship, it starts on fire, and our professor chokes to death. Eventually, our 2 survivors do manage to get to an island. But as you saw, the Templars get there too. 10 of them in total. What a thing to wake up to. Alright, let's talk about the Ghost Galleon. I've only seen this movie one time before. It was when I reviewed it for my previous channel. It's the 3rd film in the Blind Dead collection, or the Blind Dead series, all directed by this guy named Armando de Osorio. I guess he's a Spanish director. Unlike the first 2 films, we do see the Templars again rise from the dead to kill. However, this time they're on a boat. We have some bikini models who are out in a small boat. They're supposed to be on some sort of ad campaign where they're going to come into shore or something. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but somehow their boat dies, they get lost, and the next thing you know, they run into this galleon, this like 16th century ship that looks like, you know, Columbus's boat or something, floating out in the ocean somewhere, and they bump into it and decide to hop on board. One of them does anyway. It looks like there's nobody on board. So one of them goes on there, and next thing you know, we hear some screaming. We don't really see what happens to her, though, but her friend hears the screaming, and then she goes to follow her. After she does have a radio, and she calls in to let them know they're lost. She goes on board as well, and then we obviously then see the Templars rise from their coffins. There's coffins on this boat, and they're in there, and they come out, and they slowly stalk her and kill her. They take her, actually, and then dump her. I don't know if they dumped her over the side or what, but they dumped her, and I guess that killed her. I don't know. Anyway, so before she hopped on that boat, she did radio back to let them know they're lost. So then her people come out and look for her. Along the way, they pick up this scientist guy who tells them a story about Templars and ghost ships and everything like that. See, he wants to come along. He's like an expert in ghost ships, I guess. So, of course, they got to bring him along. And, of course, they find this ghost ship. They don't see anybody on board, so they decide just to spend the night. They're going to sleep on this old, 400-year-old boat. And I don't know how they didn't find the Templar coffins, but they didn't. And, of course, the Templars start rising from their coffins and killing them. But actually, did they kill somebody? I don't even know if they did, because there was 4 people on board. They also found a bunch of treasure on the ship, too, which they plan to loot, or at least one of the guys does. But the Templars come out, and then the scientist guy, he says, I'm familiar with exorcism. So he makes a cross and somehow pushes them back into their coffins. And then they take the coffins, they lift them up and dump them over the side. So they decide, well, we got to get out of here. So they pull a plank off the board. They're going to swim to an island. But the scientist guy says, I can't swim. So you guys go, come back for me. So the other 3 go. But one of them is carrying this big satchel full of treasure and jewels and things. And it's weighting them down as they're floating on this plank to try to get to somewhere. And they end up killing that guy because he was trying to drown another guy. So the girl stabs him in the back and he dies. The 2 of them then make it to shore. The boat starts on fire, and the guy, the scientist guy on board, dies, chokes to death. And then the Templars, who were dumped over the side in their coffins, rise and start coming to the island. We see them. It's actually a pretty cool scene when they come to the island and walk slowly. And then they greet the 2 people on the shore who have collapsed because they did make it to shore eventually. And the last scene in the movie is them reaching for those 2 and some screams. That's it. That is the Ghost Galleon. Now, I actually have this movie, I think, 3 times in my collection. The other 2 times are on some compilation DVDs under alternate titles. Zombie Flesh Monster, and I think it's Horror of the Blood Monsters or Horror of the Monsters, something like that, which I didn't even realize until a couple years ago that they were all the same movie until I figured it out eventually. So I had to remove those 2 items from my overall movie list. Because I have it here. So anyway, that is the Ghost Galleon, part of the Blind Dead collection. And if you're looking to get this on DVD, you can buy this whole box in here, except it's going to run about $200 now. So I'm glad I got this years ago and didn't have to spend that for it. Is the movie any good? It's okay. Again, just like the other Blind Dead movies, I like the vibe of these movies, and just the fact that these are just slow-moving zombie skeleton creatures. It's kind of fun. I just like that. They don't seem all that threatening to me because I would think I could get away from them because they move so slow. Of course, you're on a boat, you're kind of trapped here, but and they don't have their horses this time either. That at least gave them some speed in the previous films, but not here. But anyway, they made one more movie called Night of the Seagulls, which I'll be reviewing probably next week. And until then, let me know what you think about the Ghost Galleon. Leave some comments and let me know. Watch it. Bye.